Hello and welcome back to VMTV. My name is Kyle Diamond. My guest for this episode is Mr. Abraham Babli. He fights on the PFL Challenger Series on February 10th against Hassan Graham. He previously made his PFL debut last season against Louis Sutherland, who is also in the Challenger Series for the heavyweight division. He is 2-0 as a professional. His first fight was on Vida, which is obviously run by Mark Prince, who is his head coach at Manchester Top Team. So we caught up with him just to talk about a few different parts of his career, his mentality most of all, which I think is extremely impressive, and his kind of thoughts on where he's at right now and training at Manchester Top Team with a room full of killers. Without further ado, Mr. Abraham Babli. I've got a kind of a follow-up to this first question, but I'll ask you initially. Were you surprised when you found out that you would be on the Challenger Series?
To be honest with you, mate, I'm ready to scrap whenever, mate. I'm not really asked whether I was on the Challenger Series or the Europe undercard or the regular season undercard. I'm not really asked about that. I'm ready to just get in there and show the world what I'm really about.
Yeah, see, that's what I thought you would say. Because I saw you in a different interview where you were talking about how you're fine with just get into the place where you want to be when you get there and not
Yeah,
rushing things and
yeah,
things like that. So
100%.
I thought that would be your take on it, but we were very surprised after you beat Louis Sutherland that this is where you would be, especially considering Louis is also in that series.
Yeah.
But I mean I think that your take is the right way to look at it. But we definitely thought that you would, by winning that fight, wouldn't be here. Do you get where I'm coming from?
Yeah, 100%, mate. To add on to that, I'm I'm happy for Louis. I don't have no hatred for anyone in the game. We're all trying to benefit our lives and progress to a better future. So for me to sit here and think about that too much, I'm already setting myself downhill. So I'm happy for him and I hope he does well. And I reckon we will meet again. So I have a lot of respect for him. It's hard for us fighters to get in there, train every day, and put our bodies on the line. So I have respect for him. So whatever they've got planned for him, that's not really my business anyway. My business is to get in there and smash all my opponents, and that's what I will do.
I noticed this from going back to finding some older interviews that you've done, like even before you turned pro, and that the you will have a very like mature fighter mindset, and I heard you talk a lot about like you post about it a lot on Instagram, about being grateful just for where you are because of your upbringing in London.
Yeah.
Um, how have you always been that way after going through a tough childhood, that gratitude of getting anything out of life seems to really focus you when it comes to fighting?
Yeah, mate, I'm focused. I wasn't always like this. Don't
Hmm.
get me wrong, mate. I wasn't always like this. It took time for me to build this mental state, but I'm just grateful. Over the years we've had lockdown, people dying, etc., etc. So you got to be grateful for what you got now. I know I'm gonna get to where I need to get to, regardless who I have to fight and who I have to deal with. So I can't sit here and worry about what everyone is doing. As long as I'm well prepared, I know I'm a big, big, big problem for all fighters, all weights, all everything. And the benefit with this is I get to train with all weight classes. I'm 5'10", even though PFL have me down as 5'8". I think they're taking a mick there, mate. Yeah, I'm 5'10". Yeah. Give me, give me my 2 inches. I'm 5'10".
We'll see
Yeah,
if we can
let's
get
get
that
that right.
changed for you, mate.
But
We'll
I get to train. Yeah, 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 of course.
but yeah, no,
But
like
again, I'm
you go.
go on, mate. Go on, mate. Go on, mate.
I was just gonna say like growing up where you did in East Acton, you don't
Yeah,
always find that the people who need a way out or something to focus on, a lot of them don't
yeah,
find that.
of
So
course.
when did MMA kind of come into your life as that thing that you could dedicate yourself to?
To be honest with you, mate, I went so how it all how it pretty much all started was I was supposed to go I went on trial to Bournemouth football, if anyone knows Bournemouth football team.
Hmm.
Um FC United, I don't know what they're called, mate, but I went on trial at Bournemouth. Yeah, shout out my old agent Godfrey. You know, he's got a lot of the boys getting into academies and first team football. So, you know, shout out to Godfrey always, 100 times for that, mate. But again, I went on trial at Bournemouth. I didn't get signed. And I said, you know what? I'm just gonna go uni. And I was at uni and I was there for 6 months and I thought, forget all of this, mate. I'm a fighter at heart. Let's try this MMA stuff. And lucky enough, as I was going through that process, Conor McGregor was coming up in the game. So that was a big motivation for me seeing someone doing something that he didn't want to do and then make the switch. And now look at him now, do you know what I mean? So he's a big inspiration to me coming up to the game anyway.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously, so many people would agree with you. I think the thing that people
Yeah,
maybe overlook about Connor now that he is a massive star is that when he came through,
yeah,
he would talk about how he had nothing and how he had bailiffs at his door and that he could pay them off
yeah,
with his
yeah,
first UFC wage check.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah,
and I don't think enough people give him credit for stuff like that.
yeah. No, Conor McGregor's the man, whether you respect what he's doing or not. Old school Conor, and I'm sure he still has that mindset. But I think of it as old school Conor, and that's the guy that truly motivated me coming up. So he has a lot of my respect for sure.
When I'd listened to an interview that you did after your first pro fight on Vida,
Mhm.
and you spoke about how you just messaged Carl Prince, who of course now is your coach,
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
and just sent him a message like, "This is who I am.
yeah,
This is what I want to be,"
yeah,
and he was
yeah,
like, "Come and train." First
yeah.
of all, was it just a location thing that made you seek out Mark, or had you been told about Manchester top team and stuff like that before?
To be honest with you, mate, I moved to Manchester about 3.5 years ago, maybe 4, and I just jumped off the train and a good friend of mine, Jaden Ivorin, had a little setup where he had a gym going on, and I messaged him. I actually typed in Manchester MMA gyms, and at the time he had Oldham Powers. Is that what it's called? I'm not too sure. Sorry, Jaden, if I got it wrong, mate. But he had a little setup in Oldham, and I said, mate, I'll come down and train. He didn't take me seriously, but I kept going. And but the only thing is, they only had I think 3 days a week they trained. So I told him, listen, I'll do the rest. Just get me a fight within 2 weeks and I'll just go pure gym. So that my first amateur fight, as you can see the shape I was in, I was quite bloated, mate. So um I just trained at pure gym every night leading up to that fight and got the job done.
Hmm.
And then
One,
after that, in fact, and then I messaged Carl Prince.
hmm.
And then I messaged Carl Prince and then, you know, the story, the story itself is still is still on its way for sure.
Mm. One of the things I'd never even kind of thought about when I was looking through, what we were going to chat about was something you said at the start about how, but despite being a heavyweight, because of your size, you can train with a lot of the rest of the guys, which I hadn't even considered as
Yeah,
like a major asset to yourself because the talent at Manchester top team is so good, and as well, like.
yeah,
Scrolling through your Instagram earlier and seeing like that you've been able to get some rounds in with like the likes of Tom Aspinall, people like that, that's a certified guarantee that you're on the right path
100%.
if you're in there with guys like that. So how much of an asset is that to you, the fact that you can train with guys outside of your division?
It's big for me because again, like I said, I could train with all levels. You know, one of my favorite fighters is Volkanovski. Hopefully, one day I get to train with him as well. And I believe we've got a similar style. One day maybe I could train with Matt. Maybe one day I could train with Izzy. Maybe one day I can train with Can you hear me, mate?
Yeah,
You
I
kind
can
of
hear you.
froze just then.
Yeah, it's a bit choppy, but it's all good. Don't worry, I can hear you the whole time.
Yeah,
Don't worry
yeah,
about
yeah.
it.
So 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 the point I'm trying to make is I have the opportunity to train with everyone,
Hmm.
and that's something not all heavyweights can do. And I have the speed to keep up with everyone and the fitness to keep up with everyone. So that's a big benefit for me, and I will show that on February the 10th, no doubt.
Another thing, it was actually from the same interview that I referenced earlier when you were talking about messaging Carl Prince. Sorry, Mark Prince. I always get his name wrong, and I have no idea why. I don't know anyone called Carl Prince, but whatever, it's in my head. It was from the same interview after your pro debut. You said about a really interesting quote that I don't think I've ever heard, at least maybe put in this way. You said about how the day someone clips you, that's when you'll see the best version of the fighter that you are, which is an interesting kind of opinion to have about your own fighting career. But I assume that comes from obviously tremendous self-belief, but also knowing that you back yourself when you're faced with adversity, which again is a huge asset to have as a fighter, I'm sure.
Like what you just said, mate, adversity. That's what we all are judged off, right? You know, we like you could steamroll past all these fighters, but until you get a hard fight, then they'll say you're a real fighter. So, you know, I'm gonna really show people what I'm about. And my last fight, many people didn't know I had an MCL tear. 3 weeks before that, I couldn't even walk. You know, I had two knee sleeves on, so he couldn't see which one to chop. So the world will really see what I'm about. They will see what I'm about, no doubt.
Sweet mate, that's everything I had. So cheers for your time. Have a good rest of your day, and hopefully we'll catch back
No
up with
worries,
you
mate.
after you get that win.
Hey, stay tuned, mate. Stay tuned. Florida, mate. I'm gonna shut it down for sure. No doubt. I'm gonna shut it down.
For sure, man. Yeah, cheers. Catch you again soon, mate. Nice one.
Nice one, mate. Nice one.